For over a century, the Phaistos Disc has baffled archaeologists. A clay spiral from ancient Crete covered in mysterious symbols, untouched by time and unreadable by scholars. But now, after 2,000 years of silence, AI has cracked the code. What it found isn't a prayer or a poem, it's a warning, a message from the Bronze Age about a fire that cannot be touched in a sky that must be silenced. What were they trying to tell us? And why does it feel more relevant now than ever before? The answer may change how we view ancient history and our future. The mysterious clay disc emerges. On a quiet summer day in 1908, Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier made an extraordinary discovery at the Minoan Palace of Phaistos in southern Crete. Buried beneath centuries of rubble lay a 15-centimeter diameter clay disc unlike anything ever seen. Across one side spiraled 241 stamped symbols, not carved, but pressed in unique seals, an astonishing example of early movable type, millennia before Gutenberg. The disc dates to the Middle-Late Bronze Age, circa 1850–1600 BC, at the height of Minoan civilization. Known for palaces, frescoes, and maritime trade, the Minoans left behind scripts like Linear A and B, but this disc bore no resemblance to either. Its symbols were completely alien in the known Minoan writing systems. Scholars were baffled. Historian Gareth Owens called it an outlier, a relic that didn't fit into any known linguistic tradition. No one knew if it was text or merely decorative. Was it a sacred hymn, a game board, a log, or something else entirely? We had no Rosetta Stone equivalent to decode it, and for over a century the disc remained stubbornly silent. Today it stands as a singular relic, its purpose hidden in time. No matching examples have emerged. Every stamped spiral, every bird-man tool remains a clue locked in clay without a clear key. Yet the disc's beauty and mystery force scholars to ask, without a Rosetta Stone or comparative text, how do you break its silence? From the 20th century's frustration, scholars turned to modern tools. Could computing power and pattern recognition finally crack what human minds couldn't? The next section explores that shift. Why it defied decoding. The Phaistos disc contains 45 distinct symbols, each representing everyday elements: people, animals, cups, tools. But instead of being carved, they spiral inward as precisely stamped impressions, a sign of deliberate design. The disc feels intentional, tactile, and purposeful. Yet scholars hit a wall. Written languages rely on context, repeated words, grammar, sentence structure. Without other similar texts to compare, none of that existed. With just 241 symbols and no Rosetta counterpart, linguists feared the disc would always be whispering, never speaking. Over the years, dozens of theories arose: a sung hymn, an inventory list, even a board for a Bronze Age game. But linguist Alice Kober warned, without comparison, the symbols remain mute. And she was right. Even with decades of brainstorming, the disc's code stayed locked. Until recently. Frustrated researchers realized the only way forward was a fresh approach, one that didn't rely on human memory or bias, but on statistical logic and massive comparisons. And that brought them to a new frontier: artificial intelligence. With traditional methods exhausted and prejudice looming, scholars turned away from human limitations. They fed 4,000-year-old symbols into machines, and those machines began to see patterns no human eye could. The results promised to turn whispers into words. The next section digs into how AI became the tool that might finally decode the disc. AI enters the scene. In the 2020s, researchers turned to AI and statistical modeling. They scanned the disc's high-resolution images and let programs compare the 45 symbols against vast databases: Linear A, Linear B, Anatolian hieroglyphs, and even early Semitic scripts. These systems use Bayesian pattern matching to detect symbol frequency, order, and relational structures. By doing so, AI revealed repeating clusters and positional clues, elements that humans didn't notice. It mapped probability structures. Which symbols start a phrase, which appear together, and how often. It showed that this spiral disc was not art, not random. It was likely structured communication. One linguist working on the project shared, "The disc isn't just art, it's language." And the AI backed that up by rejecting non-linguistic theories with high confidence. Even more surprisingly, it hinted the text wasn't a hymn or story, it was a warning. This discovery flipped the disc's mystery on its head. Scholars who had framed it as playful or ritualistic were forced to reconsider. Now it seemed that, nearly 4,000 years ago, someone was encoding instructions or alerts, not poetry. With AI suggesting the disc contained a warning code, scholars were left with big questions. What was it warning about? Who was it meant for? And how accurate was this AI translation? Number 4 will reveal the chilling phrases unearthed by the machine and what they might mean for understanding Minoan urgency. The shocking discovery. When AI finished crunching the disk's spiral of symbols, the results were chilling. The computer-generated translation didn't speak of gods or agriculture. It delivered a series of urgent phrases, each more unsettling than the last. Among them, "When the gate trembles, silence the sky, and beware the fire that cannot be touched." It read like an ancient warning, not a prayer. That tone startled researchers. These weren't metaphors. They were direct, tactical, and suggestive of impending disaster. The gate could mean a palace entry or symbolic barrier. Silencing the sky felt like shielding from something falling or stopping communication. The fire that cannot be touched. It suggested a danger beyond flame. Radiation, maybe. Something invisible but deadly. Linguist Gareth Owens noted, "This isn't a metaphor. The phrasing is instructional, as if someone was preparing for the worst." The AI model showed that these weren't poetic guesses. They were deliberate word patterns, recurring in structured positions that pointed to functional, not decorative use. Suddenly, the disk's purpose changed. It wasn't a hymn. It wasn't ritual. It was survival, an encoded set of steps crafted for urgency, perhaps meant for those left behind or for those yet to come. These phrases alone would have sparked curiosity. But when researchers re-examined the disk's symbols through this new lens, patterns started appearing. Shield shapes, spirals, winged animals. Symbols once dismissed as decorative now looked like crisis cues. The next step was to test this theory and to see if the disk's structure truly matched its eerie message. Symbols of danger. Armed with AI's translation, researchers revisited the disk's layout and symbols. Almost immediately, they saw it differently. The spiral symbol, once considered ornamental, now echoed tremble. The shield-like glyph matched gate. A winged bird became sky, or at least something airborne. These once ignored images were now key players in a coded narrative. Most compelling was the consistency. These symbols appeared at regular intervals, in repeating clusters. The layout wasn't random. It followed a format, almost like stanzas or commands. AI identified structural anchors, repeating motifs that mirrored how warning messages are organized in modern protocols. Animal symbols, too, took on meaning. A crouched figure could be anticipation or fear. A charging bull might mean threat escalation. These weren't spiritual mascots. They were cues, triggers, instructions. This disc tells a sequence, one analyst noted, a sequence of action. Every piece lined up, structure, symbol, sequence. It looked less like artwork, more like a Bronze Age emergency manual, condensed into a portable, durable medium, a spiral to remember, a code to survive. Yet structure alone isn't enough. To make the leap from art to instruction, scientists needed to know, could the AI back this up with confidence? And what did other language models say? The next point looks at the breakthrough that tipped the scales, the mathematical certainty that this disk may not be a riddle, but a message we were never meant to forget. Beyond human interpretation. AI doesn't guess, it calculates. And in the case of the Phaistos Disc, it calculated with 95% confidence that the content was a warning. Not religious, not poetic, just structured, tactical language. This figure came not from one model, but from 3 independent systems, each trained on different Bronze Age linguistic datasets. The AI used Bayesian probability, tracking how symbols appeared, repeated, and changed positions across the disk. It compared these metrics with known syntaxes in Linear A, Anatolian hieroglyphs, and Proto-Sinaitic inscriptions. The patterns matched what we expect from active, spoken languages, not static or decorative formats. The most striking rejection was the religious theory. The AI saw no prayer-like rhythm, no invocation syntax, no call and response forms common in hymns. Instead, it saw short, action-packed phrases that resembled emergency instructions. As one AI researcher explained, "We're not reading devotion, we're reading deployment." This wasn't a matter of interpretation, it was a statistical profile of meaning. And while skeptics remained cautious, the models left little room for the disk being mere art. If the symbols weren't decorative and the format wasn't religious, then what's left is function. With structure, pattern, and probability all pointing toward a deliberate warning, one question now haunted scholars. What exactly were the Minoans warning about? What did the gate, the fire, in the sky mean in their world? And more importantly, should we be listening? The next section begins to break down these metaphors, revealing possible meanings rooted in both myth and science. The gate, the sky, and the fire. When AI highlighted key phrases from the disk, researchers began looking closer at individual symbols. The gate glyph, a shield-like icon, suddenly seemed more than decoration. Could it represent a city gate, palace entrance, or symbolic threshold? The disk may have warned of a boundary at risk. The sky symbol, depicted as a bird or winged figure, hinted at something airborne, storms, comets, or other skyborne threats. Ancient cultures often linked the heavens to omens. The idea that the disk spoke of aerial danger was suddenly plausible. The phrase "fire that cannot be touched" stumped scholars. What kind of fire doesn't burn upon touch? Perhaps it referred to radiation, acid, or a chemical reaction. AI linked it to rare cosmic or natural fires, things untouchable yet deadly. These ideas weren't random. The symbolism on the disk followed repeated, ordered patterns that strongly suggested narrative structure, not decorative motifs. The disk may have been a guide, not just a message, a survival manual for those who could decode it. Transition, 60 words. While this analysis feels compelling, it only gains weight when compared to similar patterns elsewhere. If the disk was more than local art, it might echo wider Bronze Age warning systems. The next section explores surprising parallels in inscriptions across the Aegean and Anatolia and what they might tell us about shared threats and shared symbols. Cross-culture echoes. As AI compared the disk's symbols to other ancient systems, scholars noticed striking similarities. In Anatolian hieroglyphs, spirals often signaled disruption or upheaval. In Minoan seals, similar bird and animal symbols represented omens. These were not isolated artistic designs, but repeated visual codes. Clusters on the Phaistos disc, spirals paired with shields or animals, matched patterns seen across Bronze Age artifacts. AI flagged multiple recurrent groupings, suggesting a shared symbolic language spanning regions. This implied the disk might belong to a regional warning tradition. Researchers highlighted parallels to rituals invoking storm gods in Anatolia and Crete. Those ceremonies used signs for skyborne disasters. The disk's phrases about tremors, sky, and untouchable fire fit this ritual context. Could they be a simplified emergency directive? While separate languages dominated in ancient Crete, myths and iconography often overlapped. The AI's discovery of symbol clusters in multiple sites suggests a cross-cultural alert system, a Bronze Age early warning network encoded in creative yet functional iconography. Still, for every strong lead, questions grow. Can a lone disk carry that much weight? Either AI models can detect patterns, but what do traditional scholars say? In the next segment, we'll explore the skeptic's side with caveats, counterpoints, and why caution remains essential in interpreting this enigmatic artifact. Hoax or overinterpretation? Not all experts are convinced. Some archaeologists point out that the disc stands alone. No sister discs, no tomb inscriptions, no linear A equivalents. When you have just one object, drawing broad conclusions becomes riskier. You might be reading wild guesses into modest art. Critics also worry about AI bias. If the model is trained on Anatolian or linear A scripts, it might see patterns that aren't really there. Analogy creep. Without manual confirmation, AI's high confidence may be misleading, projecting parallel meaning where none exists. Then there's the disc's brevity. Linguistically, short texts without repetition or corroboration are hard to decode reliably. Even if AI is confident, linguists warn, this isn't definitive, it's a hypothesis. A risk remains that symbolic coincidences trip us up. One critic summed it up, until more discs are found, we're building castles on a single stone. And while the interpretation is tantalizing, verifying it requires more evidence. Or scholars fear the disc's voice may be solo, not symphonic. With both sides laid out, AI's warning theory and scholarly caution, the stage is set for broader implications. If the disc is a warning, what does that mean for today's world, human communication, and how we listen across millennia? The next points explore modern relevance, AI's role, and what comes next in this Bronze Age mystery. Why the warning matters today. If the Phaistos Disc truly contains an ancient crisis alert, its message isn't just historical, it's timely. Phrases like, silence the sky and fire that cannot be touched, resonate deeply today. Could they refer to solar flares, radiation, or chemical events? Phenomena still beyond human control? Bronze Age people may have recorded what they lived through, natural, cosmic, or even technological threats. They didn't have GPS or seismographs, but they had awareness, communication, and purpose. The disc then may stand as a Bronze Age precursor to emergency alerts and public warnings. Today, we rely on satellites, text alerts, and global alarm systems, but these can fail. In contrast, this clay disc endured centuries, quietly conveying its message. It reminds us that simple systems, symbol, spiral, clay, can carry meaning across ages. If an object from nearly 4,000 years ago can prompt modern reflection on danger, preparedness, and human ingenuity, then it's far more than a curiosity. It connects us to a shared legacy of survivors, thinkers, and ancient watchers of the sky. This isn't just ancient lore, it's a nexus where past and present collide. AI uncovered a pattern. Now AI's role deepens. How do we process such messages? Can machines be trusted? Our next point explores the seismic shift AI brings to archaeology and whether digital tools can honor history without reshaping it. The new archaeological detective. Artificial intelligence isn't here to replace archaeologists, it's here to empower them. On the Phaistos Disc, AI scans symbol frequencies, context, and position across multiple scripts, work that would take human experts years to mimic. AI's power lies in speed and scale. It examined and compared thousands of inscriptions from linear A, B, Anatolian glyphs, and beyond. The result? A structured hypothesis with clear probability signals, not gut feelings. 3 independent AI systems pointed to a warning interpretation, assigning it 95% confidence. That's statistical strength, not wishful thinking. Even when human translators saw only mystery, AI found meaning. Yet AI is neutral. It doesn't assume context. It offers possible readings. Archaeologists now face a crucial next step, verifying that AI interpretation with physical, historical, or textual evidence. That's where true discovery lies. So AI gives us paths, but the journey isn't over. Before we can confirm, we need proof. The next mission, real-world artifacts that match the disc's pattern. This isn't speculation, it's a challenge. And understanding what comes next is critical. Verifying the translation. An AI-driven hypothesis is compelling but unproven. To move from interpretation to knowledge, researchers need corroboration. That means finding matching symbols on tablets, seals, inscriptions, anywhere in the Aegean world. Archaeologists have returned to Bronze Age excavation sites. They use AI-guided imaging and microspectrometry to scan pottery shards and tablets for Phaistos-style symbols. They're exploring old museum archives to spot hidden fragments. If a shard with equivalent glyphs or partial phrases like tremble or fire turns up, it would dramatically strengthen the interpretation. That would shift the disc from solo relic to part of a broader narrative. Until then, it remains an extraordinary hypothesis. But thanks to AI, we now know what to look for. Science is giving us a treasure map, and it's time to follow it. Even without immediate confirmation, the disc has already changed something. Whether or not more samples surface, it prompts us to rethink communication, memory, and the resilience of human messages. Our final point reflects on what this may all mean, far beyond one disc or one culture. The disc speaks at last. Imagine an archive not of royal decrees or temple inscriptions, but of emergency messages, buried in the earth, scaled for survival, not grandeur. That's what the Phaistos Disc may represent. It's a direct echo of ancient awareness and human urgency. For 3,700 years, archaeologists saw only mystery. Now the disc may become a message in its own right, a survival manual carved in clay. It reshapes what we thought of Bronze Age intelligence and symbolic use. It also raises questions. What else did ancient peoples encode? Warnings we can't understand. How do we balance scholarly caution with curiosity? Do we dare to believe that past cultures understood risks as profoundly as we do today? Whether or not more evidence emerges, the Phaistos Disc reminds us of communication's enduring power. It's a testament to the human impulse, to watch the sky, sound the alarm, and hope someone someday listens. For more than a century, the Phaistos Disc sat in silence, a clay spiral of mystery, guarded by 45 symbols pressed with tools from a vanished world. Scholars speculated, doubted, and dreamed. Some saw a hymn, others a ritual. Most gave up. The message was too short, too strange, too alone in history to ever be understood. But now, more than 2,000 years after it was fired and forgotten, AI may have finally cracked its code. And the result is not what anyone expected. Not a prayer, not a poem, but a warning. When the gate trembles, it says, silence the sky. Beware the fire that cannot be touched. These are not metaphors. They are signals, echoes of danger etched in symbols. And if AI is right, this disc becomes something extraordinary. A survival manual from the Bronze Age, left by people who understood crisis and found a way to remember it. That alone reshapes what we think we know. It suggests the Minoans were not only artists and architects, but observers, planners, warners. It tells us that ancient knowledge wasn't always mystical or religious. Sometimes it was practical, tactical, urgent. It also speaks volumes about us. Our rush to dismiss the strange, our need to categorize history into neat boxes, worship, trade, myth. But what if this disc stood outside of all those things? What if it was meant not for gods, but for the people who came after? And then there's AI, our unlikely partner in this rediscovery, a tool born from the most modern of minds, now unlocking the thoughts of the most ancient. Together, machine logic and human curiosity are starting to crack open voices long considered lost. The past, once silent, is beginning to speak. Of course, one disc isn't enough. One message doesn't rewrite everything, but it opens a door, a possibility. It urges us to look again, not just at the Phaistos Disc, but at every mysterious artifact we've shelved as undecipherable. It dares us to listen harder, because maybe somewhere out there, buried in the soil or sitting behind glass, is another message, another warning, another voice calling out, not in desperation, but in hope, that we might hear it, understand it, and this time not wait 2,000 years to respond.